Hi guys, it's Damion from Luxury Property Partners. Sorry for the big jacket and the husky voice, but it is freezing outside and I've been absolutely non-stop. But today I wanted to run through whether buy to let is still advisable here in Oxfordshire, and I want to run through the rewards. So you can earn money two ways with buy to let. The first is the rental income from the property itself, and the average rental achieved in Oxfordshire is around £2,100, which is a rise of more than 10% in the last year alone. This rent is expressed as a yield and is described as a percentage figure that's calculated using the annual rental income and basically dividing it by the value of the buy-to-let property. So landlords and buy-to-let investors use rental yield to judge and measure the value of their rental investments and portfolios. So rent, let's say £1,000 per calendar month, which means the annual rent is 12 times 1,000 equals 12,000. If the property itself is worth 180,000, the rental yield is 12,000 divided by 180 grand, which when expressed as a yield percentage is around 6.67%. The average yield in Oxfordshire is 5.1%. So some areas in Oxfordshire can easily achieve a 6.6 to 8% yield, sometimes even more depending on your choice of property and the type of tenancy you wish to have. If yield is your number one focus, the highest average yield in the UK can actually be found in Bradford city centre, where it's about 12%, Hyson Green and Radford in Nottingham at 9.6%, and Pontypridd at 8.7%, while other areas in the UK, they can actually be as low as 2.2%. So indeed is the best strategy to go for high yielding properties. The problem with pursuing high yielding Oxfordshire buy-to-let properties is that you usually must compromise on the property's capital growth to attain that high yield. The second way to earn money with buy-to-let is capital growth, as your Oxfordshire property increases in value. So OX2 near central Oxford, the values are 25% higher than 3 years ago, a reasonable return in anyone's books. But of course this is all dependent on the rent coming in, yet you can buy landlord insurance to cover against loss of rental income or tenant damage and legal costs. But interestingly, using government data and industry data found in the first lockdown, landlords who managed their rental properties themselves were 2% more likely to be in the arrears of 2 months or more compared to those who utilise the services of a letting agent to manage their property. So there are drawbacks of Oxfordshire buy-to-let. Your tax bill is higher today than a few years ago, but isn't everybody's. And if Oxfordshire property prices fall, the capital you invested will reduce. Yet if it's sat in the bank, it would decline in value anyway. And being a landlord is a big responsibility, with over 170 pieces of legislation and orders to comply with. That's where a suitable letting agent can help you with your rental property to ensure you remain compliant. I recommend all Oxfordshire landlords to consider all options to maximise their rental income whilst reducing their outgoings concerning their rental property. So rents are rising in Oxfordshire, as mentioned before, and many Oxfordshire landlords appreciate the demand-led increases in their rent. And let me ask you, why shouldn't they, as they have been exposed to so many legislative and taxation changes over the past 4 or 5 years? And the last point, and the elephant in the room, will there be a house price crash, and should Oxfordshire landlords wait for it? In my mind, a house price crash conjures up a big event that makes house prices go down. And it certainly happened like that in 1988 with the removal of the dual MIRAS tax relief on mortgages and the credit crunch in 2008. Yet this time, It's different, as there is more normality and balance in the Oxfordshire property market at the moment compared to 2021 and 2022, and the price that is being paid today on most houses here in Oxfordshire is not as extreme or as extravagant, as was being paid in 2021 and 2022, when people were basically outbidding each other during COVID. Therefore, if you were to look at the house price indexes going into the spring of this year, then again, in my mind, there will be a reduction. The doom mongers and newspaper editors will call that a house price crash, yet as I see it, the market is basically going back to normality. A massive driver behind landlords and home buyers waiting for a house price crash is that they fear they have missed the boat when it comes to investing. There is always a newspaper and now social media attention when house prices exploded, and this means that people quickly feel pressure to enter the property market as everybody is making money, yet they aren't. The problem is that during the previous boom phases, which were in the late 80s and the early to mid 2000s, house prices increased quicker than some people could save money for their deposit for the house purchase. They saw their friends and their acquaintances snapping up buy-to-let deals, and they were missing out on the spoils of house price growth. As a result, many of these excluded house buyers judged that a house price correction was foreseeable, inevitable, and sometimes needed, not with any rational economic argument, but classic FOMO, or fear of missing out. Yet a house price crash isn't the silver bullet that many people think it actually will be. House price crashes virtually never drop house prices to reasonable levels, and in fact they have a lot of additional effects that make house buying even harder than you would think. Investing in buy-to-let is a long-term investment, and remember what I've said before, it would help if you decided why you're getting into buy-to-let investment and when you will get out and what you want to get out of it. Buy-to-let has advantages, but it's also got disadvantages, but it is something tangible and something that investors can understand. The UK needs to build more houses, so the demand for rental properties will only continue to grow. The heady days of the early 2000s, when anybody could make money from property, they've gone. With increased legislation and taxation, you need the advice of a great agent to guide you on what to buy and not to buy for an excellent yield, incredible capital growth, or a balance of the two. That agent should be able to find you a great tenant who will pay the rent on time and look after the property to ensure that when they leave, your investment is returned and is given to you in the best condition possible. So if you'd like to pick my brain, whether you're considering becoming a landlord in Oxfordshire, an existing landlord, irrespective of which agent you choose, because we don't actually do rentals, or even a self-managed landlord, don't hesitate in picking up the phone to me. Sometimes it's a case of telling you what you need to hear and not necessarily what you want to hear. So sorry for the husky voice, but I just wanted to get this article out today. This is Damion Merry.